This is Deep Blue, where we get the true life stories of BYU athletes, coaches, and fans. Here's your host, Jarom Jordan.
On today's show, we talked with a guy who almost went to Texas A&M, who didn't lose a home game in his last 3 seasons at BYU, who thought he might be out of the NFL, but suddenly got called back midweek and got the game ball 1 week in the NFL, who still broadcasts on our air. He is the one and only, my friend, David Nixon. David, what's up, man?
Oh, I like that intro. That's
Do
a
you?
very kind intro.
Okay, good. Sweet.
I can't wait to dive into more of that. But, yeah, great to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
It's been a minute. In football season, I see you all the time. Then out of football season, it's the occasional text about basketball. Like, what happened? Or, that was awesome. Or
It's the late night text when I'm irate that we lose to Santa Clara, and I just can't get over it. I do find that I somehow get more emotional over basketball than I do about football, which is really odd.
Why is that?
I think a lot of it's because football, you typically kind of know the outcome. Like, 2 minutes left in the game, you're down by 10. Like, you're not going to really win the game, right?
Not with that attitude.
The problem with basketball is you can be up by 5 with 2 minutes and you can still somehow lose it, which we've seen this year at BYU, right?
Sure.
And so that's where the mood swings for me come into play. And my wife even mentioned that to me the other day. We were watching the game. She's like, something's wrong with you. You get so much more mad with basketball and football. And I think it's because of that. But the other part is just I'm a huge BYU guy. So I just want BYU to win. And but no, it is. It's always weird for me because I spend a lot of time up here at BYUtv during the football season with you guys.
Tuesdays, Saturdays mainly.
Yeah, and lots of hours.
On BYUSN.
Yeah, totally. Lots of time. And then all of a sudden, boom, once the bowl game's over, it's basically off season for me until the next season rolls around. So it's fun to catch up here and call it, quote unquote off season for football, catch up on the show with you.
So this is a side gig for you. Some people think, this is the main. No. We cannot pay you enough to make it the main gig. You have another job. What's your day job?
Yeah, so I do commercial real estate. So I do all brokerage. So I'm helping clients buy and sell their buildings and lease them out as well, and help clients go find office space. So it's been a fun ride. I've been doing it for 10 years, ever since I got done with the NFL. Jumped right into it. And it's been a great ride. It's flexible schedules, which allows me to do stuff like this with BYU, and it allows me to attend my kids' games, and I don't have to travel much, which is optimal.
Like a great job.
Yeah, no, but it's been fun. It's I get to get out and about. I rub a lot of shoulders with BYU alum and get to use the network with BYU, which is always fun to kind of keep integrated with BYU. But it's been great. So just keep plugging away.
It's a nice title. Executive VP at JLL Brokerage. That sounds nice, bro.
It's taken some time. I started off as an associate.
Yep.
So I've been with my firm, JLL. We're one of the world's largest commercial real estate firms, Fortune 500, publicly traded type group. Been with them for 10 years, like I said, and started off as an associate and worked my way up. So
nice.
We'll see. We'll see how much longer I'm there for. I might be a lifetimer there. So a lifer. We'll see.
He used to go by Jimmy, but then he sort of evolved into
more professional.
Yes,
yeah.
Jim Balderson.
Correct.
Perhaps the greatest Canadian BYU men's basketball player of all time.
I hear about the Canadian pipeline way too much. The McGrath, Alberta, the whole whatever. I don't even know what else is up there in Canada. But
there's Greg and there's Jim Balderson, and
there's supposedly a girl that's getting recruited really hard by the women's basketball team that's supposed to be unbelievable. That's from his hometown.
I'm excited.
Like I said, I've heard everything about his small town he's from.
Yeah.
But yeah, Jim is my business partner. Also a good friend. Lives a couple blocks away from me in Draper. So
I didn't realize you lived by each other.
And our
too.
kid, we have 2 boys that are both 7 years old that were born about 2 weeks apart that play football. Wow. I coach the football team.
And he coaches the basketball team?
He coaches the basketball team.
Oh, nice.
So we got a good thing going. It's been fun.
Now, in JLL, isn't there somebody higher up that's like a former big name somebody? Who is it?
Yeah, Roger Staubach.
Roger Staubach. Okay.
Roger Staubach was when he was with the Cowboys, he started a real estate brokerage firm similar to what I do, called the Staubach Company. Go figure. They're in Dallas, and he grew it to be massive, to the point where JLL came in. Once again, JLL stands for Jones Lang LaSalle. JLL came in and bought Staubach Company back in 2010, 9, somewhere around there, 9, 10, 11, 12, for like $400 million. And so if you look at all the athletes that, net worth of these athletes, Roger Staubach's actually like up in the top 10.
Interesting.
Because of what he did post sports playing, not during his sports years. So you got Ronaldo.
Because he was getting paid well, but
no,
not the modern stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, not back
like
in the day.
at the time, sure, but
yeah,
well, maybe even not that.
Yeah, I nothing compared. I mean,
you probably got paid more in the NFL that Roger Staubach did? Question mark.
Probably
in the modern era versus
probably
this?
Yeah.
That's a weird thought.
It's crazy. I mean, so Roger Staubach, when I first got in with JLL in 2013, he was still on the board. He still showed up to our events. So we do a big brokerage event every year.
So you're talking to him occasionally, maybe?
So we ran into him. We'd rub shoulders and say hi. And then a story real quick about Roger Staubach.
This is a podcast. Nothing needs to be real.
yeah. We got time. This is like TV.
This is not BYUsn.
TV, I've got my producer in my ear being like, hey, count it down. You get 5 seconds to get out of this thing. And so I'm in a rush.
No rush.
Here, we got all day.
You're good.
These people are listening. They're like, no, I do need to get somewhere.
You're in for it. No.
No.
Put it on 2X if you're in a hurry.
All of you that are listening, we appreciate it. So Roger Staubach, so I had a client here locally, big company, and I was kind of trying to pitch for their services. And I walked into the CEO's office, and he had memorabilia all over his walls. BYU stuff. He's a big BYU fan. Big BYU stuff, NFL stuff, baseball stuff, NBA, everything. And I was like, man, this is really impressive. He's like, oh, thanks. Taking years to kind of get it all. And I go, one question. What is the one thing you're missing? Like, what is the one thing you want here? He's like, well, I grew up in Texas, and I grew up a big Cowboys fan. He's like, so I'm a big Roger Staubach fan, and I don't have anything of his. And I go, you know what? I got you taken care of. So the next day I actually called. I still have some guys with the Raiders. So I called the Raiders and I said, hey, can you give me an NFL game used football? I know that Staubach didn't play the Raiders, but I wanted the football. And they're like, yeah, it's on its way. So they shipped me a football. I then shipped it down to Roger's secretary, called her, and she's like, yeah, Roger's in and out, but yeah, he'll get it signed, no problem. Sure enough, like 3 weeks later, the football shows up. I take it to this client, and the rest is history. The guy, I've never seen somebody with a grin on his face as big as this. I had him addressed to him from Roger, personalized,
wow.
And it was kind of cool, kind of next level. But yeah, Roger's no longer. I mean, he pops his face in and out. But when I first joined, he was going on big pitches. I know some colleagues of mine that went and pitched big accounts, and he would fly in. In fact, another fun story about Roger. The Marriott Hotels was moving their headquarters across state lines, so only like 10 miles. But I think they were in Maryland and DC, moving to Maryland, something like that. And the COO of the company is the father of a friend of mine, and we went to lunch one day. And I said, hey, I hear that you guys might be moving. Have you engaged brokers? And they said, yeah, actually, we just had your colleagues that work out there in DC into our office. And, I pushed them off. They kept contacting me. I said, we're good. And all of a sudden, they contacted me one day and said, well, what if we bring a guy named Roger Staubach in? Would you take the meeting? He's like, oh, I'll definitely take the meeting. and so Roger Staubach flew out there for that meeting and sat in on the meeting. So
that's amazing.
Pretty cool story. He was we called him our mascot. He kind of just went around and he jumped in on pitches and kind of showed his face. But honestly, when I met him and in person, and we chatted for a few minutes here and there at these conferences, the guy, and when he get up on the stand, one of the most genuine human beings out there, and just all around class act, fantastic guy. Somebody you'd want to emulate, right? Somebody you want to be like as you get in the business and try to pattern your career after him. So absolute stud.
That's really cool. That's awesome. If you drive on I-15, you've maybe seen David's name on some real estate, right? Your name's out there.
Yeah.
Your number's there. Call David Nixon for your commercial real estate needs.
Yeah, you know what? Majority of my business is representing people that need space, right? There's other people, for example, in residential real estate, there's guys that represent the buyers, there's guys that represent the sellers. So the guys that represent the sellers are the ones that have their signs out in the people's yards, right? It's the same thing in commercial. If you represent the landlords or the lessors, then you're going to have a sign up on their building, right? Majority of our business is representing, quote unquote, the buyers or the lessees. And so we don't have lots of signs per se. We have some. We're pretty select on which buildings we like to represent. And so we do have our signs out there. But most of my business is representing clients that are out there looking for space, and we help them go negotiate leases and make sure they're protected on growth and that they've got a good financial deal in place. So it's a fun business.
During a pandemic, when people are working from home more, Has that affected your business quite a bit?
Yeah, it has. I mean, 2020, right when the pandemic hit, it shut it down almost overnight. Fortunately, because of who we are, with the firm we're at, Jim and I are at with JLL. James. We head up the Salt Lake office, and so for us, we got all the big national leads still come through us. And so it was interesting because all the local companies, thought the sky was falling and the world was coming to an end. But all the national companies were like, well, listen, we know this is going to pass, and we're going to still need office space. We still need employees to come to work. And so fortunately, during the pandemic in 2020, we transacted on some larger deals because of our national pipeline. But then, 2021, believe it or not, was my best year in the business.
Interesting. As people got back in?
As people started to get back in the office, I was also hunting other opportunities. We had clients that wanted to buy buildings because interest rates were still low.
Oh, right.
So I had multiple clients that wanted to go own real estate. And so I transacted on a few big transactions that way too. So, just being flexible, and it's a crazy market. But it'll be interesting to see what is the future of office space as a whole. I mean, there is a lot of talk of work from home or a hybrid of sorts. Yeah. And so we're tracking that really closely, and we got clients that are constantly looking at that. And within JLL, because of our size, we have groups internally that will help map it out and show you the pros and cons and look at your metrics and figure out what's best suited for your company. And so, it's fun. That's kind of my daily gig, helping companies take care of their commercial real estate is about as vanilla as it gets.
Hey, let's go. Vanilla's good, with peach cobbler especially. Okay, let's talk about your life now. Are you born in College Station?
Born in Bryan, Texas, technically. Bryan is Provo Norham, right? They're next door to each other.
Gotcha.
So the hospital I was born is technically in Bryan, but yes, grew up in College Station my entire life. And
same house?
Same house. I think maybe we moved when I was like 3 or 4, but yeah, as far as I can remember.
Yes. And you have a big family, right?
Yeah, there's 10 of us kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was 10.
Yeah, 10.
My mom's one of 10. I love all my uncles and aunts and that whole deal.
It's amazing.
Great.
So 5 boys, 5 girls.
Oh, wow.
My dad's an accountant, so he said the debits and credits had to even out. So we got...
You've said that joke so many times.
It's the joke that it never gets old, right?
That's great.
I mean, over the pulpit, anywhere you'll hear him say it.
Always
but,
slides.
It always gets a good little chuckle. But yeah, we grew up all in Texas. So my dad was a professor, went to BYU, met my mom here at BYU, who she was actually a convert of the church. That whole story is fascinating as well.
Let's hear it.
You want to hear it?
Yeah.
We'll jump into it now.
Know your audience.
Okay. Yeah. So my mom grew up in Mississippi. She was not a member. Her parents divorced when she was about age 16. So she was living with her mom in Mississippi. My grandpa moved to Oklahoma. My mom, like I said, 16, 17, the missionaries just tracked into their house, knocked on the door. And my grandmother was a big smoker and drinker at the time. They let these missionaries in and started having these discussions. And now it's rolled around. I think they went to quite a few set of missionaries. Took some time. But my mom's now getting ready to go to college. She was all set to go to Mississippi State. And she had her best friend from high school was going to be a roommate. Like everything was locked and loaded. And all of a sudden, my mom was like, there's just something about what I'm hearing. I want to go to BYU. And
from the South,
not
a member of the church. That's a wild thought.
Wild story.
Right?
It's completely wild.
Huh.
And so my grandpa, in the meantime, is hearing about listening to the missionaries. He starts listening to the missionaries in Oklahoma. My mom comes out to BYU. My grandpa gets baptized. My grandma gets baptized. My mom gets baptized. And ultimately, my grandparents get remarried. And get sealed in the temple and become temple workers. And,
oh wow!
Yeah,
remarried,
and
then sealed.
The church brought them back together.
Wow.
My mom meets my dad here at BYU, and then my dad goes and gets his master's and PhD from Texas A&M and stayed on as faculty there for 42 years.
He taught at Texas A&M for 42 years.
Taught at Texas A&M.
Johnny Manziel didn't go to class. Otherwise, he would have taught Johnny, maybe.
Probably not. Probably not. No, and John. My dad was
accounting?
Accounting.
Okay.
Yeah, he's an accounting professor. No, and he was upper level accounting. So we're not talking 100, accounting 100. This is more the
400, 500.
Yeah, this is the upper MBA type stuff as well. So he had a stint as the associate dean of the business school for a while as well. Did some. He did a lot of. In fact, he's still doing some consulting with Halliburton, big oil and gas company, and so. We grew up at 111 Lee Street, which was about 3 houses to the south of A&M campus.
No way.
And
that close.
That close.
Your dad's walking to work?
Yeah, he did some. They A&M grew like crazy, so they eventually built a building a little bit on the periphery, and so he started driving. But he rode his bike for years and walked, and we grew up going to see him at work and walking over there and riding bikes all around campus.
A&M's a huge part of your life.
Huge part of my life, to the point where, once again, growing up, we went to the bonfire, the A&M bonfire. I still remember to this day waking up that morning when it fell and hearing the sirens because we're that close.
Just describe what you're telling me. I don't know what this
is.
Texas there was an event.
2000, and it would have been about 2 or so. The bonfire, A&M, before every rivalry game against the Longhorns, they would take these massive trees and create a huge bonfire.
Okay.
And they would, the students, because A&M's an engineering school,
yes,
the students would go in and they would work on this bonfire, and they would get, they would be harnessed in, and they would put up a massive pole. I don't even know how tall.
Are you saying
pole.
It's that tall?
Oh, it's huge.
Okay, crazy.
We're talking massive.
Like the biggest bonfire there is.
I mean, I think it got up to like 80 feet, maybe 100 feet.
Oh my gosh.
And so what they do is they put up a massive pole beam in the middle, and then they would stack these logs around it and layer it like a wedding cake, right? And they did this for years. And then, but the night before the UT game, they would set it on fire. They have a pep rally, but the football team would come out and they set it on fire. And at the top was they put like a little Texas Longhorn outhouse, and that would burn in flames.
Yeah.
And, Anyways, in 2000 and I gotta get the date, but early 2000s, they were working on it. It rained a ton, and the ground softened. And there were students on it, I think 11 of them, 13 of them. So I got to get those numbers right too. But this pile gave way and killed students.
I've not heard of this. That's terrible.
Yeah, it was absolutely. It was horrific. It was national news, and to A&M as a small knit community, it hit us really hard.
Yeah.
Especially you got these students, right? I mean. We've seen what's happened to the U, and I think this whole state has rallied around the U with what's happened with their students that have passed away.
Yes,
now imagine having
murders, right?
Yeah, and now
really
imagine having that happen in one fell swoop, especially with such a tradition that's been going on for so many years. And
you heard the ambulances.
So I remember waking up that morning and hearing the ambulances because we were only not even a mile away. And anyway, so yes, to go back to your point, it was an integral part of my life. And I tell people I grew up more of an A&M football fan than I did at BYU. I always loved BYU because my parents went there. The fun fact, all 9 of my siblings, all 10 of us went to BYU. All 10 of us found our spouses at BYU.
Oh, wow. 100%.
It's absolutely wild.
You guys were more accurate than Jimmer. Jeez.
Yeah, we were batting 1,000 easy. But we're BYU through and through family, and we've got nieces and nephews going to BYU. Just the tradition continues. But we grew up huge A&M fans.
How could you not?
And to the point is, even though all of us went to BYU, my parents went to BYU, I followed A&M games. I went to A&M games. It's in my backyard essentially, right? And so I tell people, I actually, I love how you and Spencer, when we get around each other, you guys know the history of BYU like none other. And unfortunately, I don't know it as well. I mean, I've gotten to know it obviously over the years, but when I remember coming to BYU, I didn't know half these guys that were coming around the facility, right? Jason Bucks and those type of guys. I was like, I don't really know who you are, but then I've quickly got indoctrinated on who these studs are.
But you could have done it with A&M.
Oh, A&M, I knew those guys as far back as possible. I knew all those guys, you know? And so it was just interesting coming to BYU and having been kind of a bigger fan of A&M. But a huge part of my life, awesome university, but obviously very happy I chose BYU and set my roots here in Provo and here in Utah.
One time I visited Texas A&M, and I was texting you. I was saying, hey, where should I go? What should I see?
Yeah.
Where should I eat?
Yeah.
It was awesome, dude.
It's just
it was so cool.
The cool thing about there is it was kind of similar to Provo. It's a college town, right?
Totally.
Without A&M, College Station, Texas doesn't exist.
It's 90 minutes outside of Houston or whatever, right?
Correct.
Like,
It's Central Texas. So you're an hour and a half to Houston, 3 hours to Dallas, hour and a half to Austin. So it's centrally.
That's a great spot.
It's a great spot. We go to all those cities, and so it's a great spot. It's flat.
Oh yeah.
There's not much to it.
Driving by so many ranches on the way out. It was a fun drive. I enjoyed it.
Growing up in high school, Friday Night Lights, we'd play Friday night after the game to celebrate our victories. We would go to one of our buddies' pastures, back up our trucks. I mean, this is like what you see in the movies, and it's true.
Yes.
We back up our trucks, turn on music, and just hang out. And maybe they were having some different beverages or something. But
your Mountain Dews were consumed
that's
at a high
right.
level.
My Dr. Peppers were they had them stacked for me.
Oh, way to pull a Texas drink out. Nice.
Had to. That's if you don't drink
Waco.
Dr. Pepper, something's wrong with you. That's right.
The official drink of the Big 12, baby.
That's right. That's right.
Although this is a Coca-Cola school here, so that'll be a fun
careful.
little battle there. Speaking of Dasani being consumed, a Coca-Cola product.
There it is.
Yeah. So Friday Night Lights and Texas and the whole deal. How do you not go to Texas A&M?
I'll be honest, it was hard.
I'm glad you didn't. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
No, we wouldn't be. I'll tell you what, my recruiting story is kind of fascinating. So my junior year in high school, I didn't start.
You're the Michael Jordan of College Station, Texas?
That's what I like to tell myself, yes.
You didn't make it.
So I didn't start my junior year. The senior started in front of me. But I would go replace him about halfway through the first quarter, maybe at the end of the first quarter, and play the entire rest of the game. That's a whole other story to be saved another
political
day. Yeah,
something.
there was definitely some political stuff going on,
Yeah.
especially in Texas. You can probably only imagine.
Yeah.
So as a result, I had good stats, but I wasn't technically a starter. So I think I didn't fall on a lot of people's radars my junior year. Fortunately, I still got recognized with some all-conference honors and things like that. And because I'm in Texas A&M's backyard, in fact, the O-line coach for A&M, his son was on my football team, Nick Grimes, and
no relation to
no,
Jeff, you said?
no relation. And so Coach Grimes was O-line coach at A&M. He recognized he'd been to my games because he's coming to watch his son. And so I remember one day we're lifting weights, and I look over, I see him walk in the weight room, right, with A&M on his jacket. And all of us are kind of like, oh, that's pretty cool, Once again, I don't think I'm on anybody's radar. To be honest, I didn't think I was really college football material because growing up in Texas, I'm watching these guys at A&M, and I'm just like, they're next level. Like I don't belong on the field with those guys. And so I never really thought I was D1 material.
Physically, what are you junior year? Height, weight?
I've always been about – I tapped out height-wise like my freshman year in high school.
Oh, interesting.
I've always been 6'3" since freshman. I was always taller.
Yeah.
Probably my junior year, I was probably 195, 200, maybe 200, pushing 200. And all of a sudden he walks in the weight room, and the coach comes over. He's like, Dave, Coach Grimes wants to talk to you. I'm like, about what? Like, what'd I do? He's like, come in the office. I go in, and Coach Grimes like, hey, just wants you to know, I've been watching your film. Really love the way you're playing. Talk to R.C. Slocum, the head coach. We want to offer you a scholarship. I was like, wait, what? I kind of looked around like, I'm surely Ashton Kutcher is somewhere around here. I'm getting punked right now. And he's like, we want to offer you a full ride. He's like, the offer's in the mail. And sure enough, 2 days later, the offer letter comes in the mail.
Oh, wow. Is this 01?
This is 02. Let's see, 02,
okay.
Right? Because I'm heading to 03, yeah. And I'm just kind of blown away. I'm like, I remember going home, and I was just like, I couldn't believe it, right? And so a couple months later, so A&M offers, all of a sudden the word gets out, start getting some more interest.
Did you have other offers?
No, they were my very first.
Are you serious?
Yeah, A&M was my very first offer. Yeah.
Well, I guess I would hope so since you're in their backyard.
Yeah,
but
that's right. Yeah.
Nobody else.
Nobody else yet.
Interesting.
Then what happened?
This is after your junior year?
That's right. After
Okay.
my junior year. It's still my junior year. It's the spring of junior year.
This is an ancient time. You have to offer like freshmen and sophomores now. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane.
How have they even played and shown what they can do? It's wild.
It's next level too because we didn't have Twitter, right? So I wasn't tweeting out my Huddle highlights and stuff. And so it was different. It was definitely a different time. I think Rivals was around, but it still wasn't super trusted, I think. Things like that. It just wasn't near as popular. And there were camps. I went to camps, and we'll get to that. But it's not the same as it is today, right? So anyway, so all of a sudden I go, there's a Nike camp, which were the big things back then. And coincidentally, A&M was hosting it in College Station because it's centrally located, right? So kids from all over the state can come down to this big Nike camp.
From all of Texas.
From all of Texas.
Oh,
this is all the kids. So I didn't get invited, but my head coach, his name was Jim Slaughter, which is a great last name for a Texas high school coach. Coach Slaughter called up the guys at A&M and were like, listen, we want to, can we get Nixon in there? And they were like, yeah, just have him come up here. We'll figure it out. So I'm that guy that shows up, and all these other kids, these 5-star kids, are all getting their little badges and their swag bags. I walk up, and they're like, Nixon, no Nixon here. And I'm like, I swear they told me to come up here. Eventually, they're like, okay, we'll just get you in. So they take a Sharpie and like write my number in on my little badge thing. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. And I walk on the field, and there's Miami, Florida State, Florida, Alabama. Every college in the country is at this Nike camp. And we do some drills, and all of a sudden we get to the 40-yard dash. And fortunately, I was blessed with some speed, and I put like a 4.56.
Oh.
And I blew away some of the other guys. And all of a sudden, the camp ends, and I have lots of these coaches coming up and chatting. And
like
so
what schools?
I end up having, I'd probably say a lot of offers. My best offer outside of A&M and BYU was LSU. I had LSU contact me and offer me on the phone. The DC at the time contacted me a couple months later. Yeah. But they offered.
LSU, a small, little-known school out of Louisiana.
Yeah, they only won the national championship my freshman year.
Yeah.
Which
you would have been the national champion.
About that. I may or may not have a ring. But anyways, and so from there, that kind of put me on the kind of everyone's radar, and so Pac-12 schools, Arizona, UCLA,
Did Utah want you?
Nebraska. Do what?
Did Utah want you?
Utah won me. It's funny because when we talked to Kalani, Kalani was at Utah at the time. He knew about me. He says he recruited me, but I don't. They may have. I actually kept a shoebox of all my offers.
You still have
letters. And I don't know where it is. I gotta find it.
It'd be fun
to go back through it at this time of my life. But anyways, and so once again, A&M's already offered. These other schools start flocking in. BYU has still not offered, and BYU has still not shown a lot of interest either.
Are you bothered by this?
Very bothered. I wanted to go to BYU because my older siblings have all been at BYU. They've loved the experience at BYU.
What kid are you in the 10?
I'm number 6. So I've got 5 older siblings.
The
all
upper.
Gone.
You're the first of the second
tier. That's right.
Yeah.
So I loved growing up where I was because I got to hang out. I got to know my older siblings really well, and I got to know my younger siblings. Because there's a 20-year gap. So my oldest sister and youngest brother didn't even live in the house at the same time.
Different relationship, right?
Yeah. I mean, they were all very close, but
right.
but they never lived with each other.
Yep.
So yeah, I'm getting bothered by this. And kind of what led to it all, BYU started showing a little bit of interest, just calling, but it wasn't like I was seeing. I mean, I had Texas A&M's R.C. Slocum call me every single week.
The head coach of a Big 12 team.
That's right, and they were pretty good back then too.
Yeah,
they'd won the Big 12 just a couple years before that, and I was getting bugged, but I was patient about it.
Who's at BYU at the time?
This is Croden. Croden's
the head coach. I'm trying to think who the DC was before.
It was Ken Schmidt.
Ken Schmidt.
That's right.
So Schmidt and Staff and Staff aren't contacting you to the degree you want.
So the crazy thing about this story too is Gary Croden's nephew was on my high school football team.
There's no excuse. There's no excuse.
And so he knew of me.
Yeah.
And
LDS kid performing well. 4, 5, 6 at the Nike camp. Siblings go to BYU. You should at least having conversations, right?
And what's getting conversations were happening, but they weren't the calls I was getting from them were nothing compared to what I was having with other schools.
You're feeling the love from LSU and Texas A&M.
And
you're like, BYU, come on.
And they're like, come out to our football camp. And so I scheduled the football camp, a week-long football camp to come out to BYU. The week prior to BYU's football camp was A&M's 2-day camp. And I said I'd go to that one just out of, because they were like my best offer. I was going to A&M or BYU. It was one of the two. LSU was really intriguing, but I was either going to stay home or come to BYU.
You knew.
Yeah, I knew.
Okay.
And so I remember, getting ready for the camps. I go to A&M's camp. There's 20 of us linebackers there, right? The defensive coordinator is like, Nixon, you come with me. The D coordinator takes me over to the offensive line, and for the next 3 hours, him and I work on pass rushing moves. He's showing me, he's like making these linemen come over here. He's like, hey, you just stand here. He's like, all right, Dave, try this on him. Do this on this guy. Try moving your hips this way. I mean, it was a one-on-one session with the A&M defensive coordinator for 3 hours.
That's unbelievable.
It was unbelievable. And I left being like, geez, these guys are the best. But I still want to go to BYU, right? So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to come to BYU. We've had calls. They knew who I am. Hopefully I go up there and ball out their camp and it turns into something.
Do you have an offer yet?
No. Offer's still not on the table for me.
But you're like, just give me an offer and I'll go?
Pretty
Is that
much.
what you're thinking?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
So I come to BYU. I show up that first day, and I talked to Schmidt on the phone, and we'd had conversations. And I show up, and I go like shake his hand and say hi, and he like kind of blows me off and acts like he has no idea who I am. And I'm like, I was just super confused. I was like, wait, I just came from A&M. The DC was like, spent all his time, and you're just blowing me off?
BYU's giving you reasons not to come
Yeah,
here.
it was hard. And so I go the first like couple days of camp, and they were still not showing me a lot of love. And so
What did you want for them to do?
I just wanted an offer. And
An offer.
And I was going to, not maybe accept at that exact moment, but I was going to jump on it. And so sure enough, we do our 40s. I ran another good 40.
What was it?
I think it was that 4.56, 4.57 range, something like that.
Which, for a linebacker, that's flying.
Yeah, it was.
Like, that's incredible.
It's about the only thing I was blessed with. But
were you faster than Austin Cullen?
I don't think so.
Because Austin was like,
yeah,
I want to say
somewhere
Austin
around
was
there.
a high 4.5s guy.
No,
4.6.
Austin's quick too.
Yes.
And keep in mind, I was only at this point I was 210, so I wasn't like yeah, it was good. It was good. I had good speed, right?
Yes.
That's why I played outside linebacker at BYU, is because I could catch guys. And so, anyways, at camp, not showing the love. I ran a good 40, had a good showing, but they're still not showing love. And I remember, I distinctly remember this. That night, I'm in the dorms, because that's where we stay for the camps, right? I called my parents, and I still hadn't got an offer. And I called them and said, I'm committing to A&M. I'm going to A&M. And I was like, I'm going to finish out this camp. I kind of forget these guys. I'm done here. I'm going to A&M because they're not showing me any love. I still don't have an offer.
Yeah.
Why am I even here?
Sure.
And the very next morning, while we're stretching at A&M camp, getting ready, or at BYU camp, getting ready for the day, Gary Croden comes up, pulls me aside. He's like, hey, we want to offer you a full ride. And I was like, yeah. I was like, I want to punch you in the face so bad right now, Gary. And of course, I was inside, I was ecstatic, right? I mean, this was like what I hoped for my whole life, basically. And so I finished the camp. I think the next week or 2 weeks later, I went to EFY, and I'm on like a spiritual high, of course, but I wanted to commit anyways. And while I was at EFY, I called and committed to BYU.
So you were back on campus?
I was that was in Texas.
In
EFY
Texas.
was in
Okay.
Texas, in Austin, Texas, actually.
You're like, I'm committing to Texas. They don't know it.
yes. And committed, called Gary and committed. And it was hard to break the news to A&M. With that being said, credit to them, they said, that's fine. We're going to still recruit you just as hard as we have. And RC Slocum continued to call me every single week.
Wow.
Until signing day.
Wow.
It was a pretty wild story.
Just in case.
And to that point, RC, because we created that friendship, and I may or may not have still gone to pretty much every A&M home game, even while I was still committed to BYU.
Sure.
As kids still do now. But I remember, speaking of RC, a couple years ago, we did, for AFR, leading up to the season in August, we kind of do some flashbacks of games, and we showcase the Ty Detmer A&M game. And
wait, was it 96 or was it? It was probably the 96 game.
Yeah, the 96 one.
That didn't have Ty.
Or no, not Ty.
Sark.
Excuse me, Sark.
Yep.
We.
I was like, the Ty Detmer A&M game didn't go well.
No, it did not go well.
Yeah.
But I remember we talked about Ty for a little bit, but we talked about Sark. But anyways, I called RC. I got a hold of him. He's still at A&M, and I got a hold of him.
Still at A&M.
Yeah, he's now in kind of a just a board of directors role. And just kind of help him,
Sure.
raise money and do
He's still
fundraising.
around.
Yeah, he's still around.
Nice.
And I called him, and we had a good chat for probably half hour, and just caught up. And he's also just the nicest guy alive. I'll tell you what, when it came down to signing, I was still committed to BYU. I was going to go to BYU, but A&M was making it hard. They ended up firing RC Slocum right before signing day.
Oh.
And they brought in Dennis Franchione, who came from Alabama. And is another great story. He called me into his office because he wanted to see if there's a way he could sway me still. And I asked him, being a member of the church, I said, hey, just curious, what's your stance on missionaries? And he paused and goes, you know what? I've never really dealt with missionaries. I don't know how we'd handle your scholarship with that. And I literally told him right there, I was like, that's great. That's all I need to hear. appreciate your time. Hope you have a good day. And walked out and never looked back. I mean, that's all I needed to know. So,
because you were going on a mission.
I was going on a mission. Yeah.
You were going to play first,
and
then go, which is what you did at BYU.
Is what I did. Yep. So obviously signed, came to BYU.
This is 03.
03. Bronco is now the D coordinator. Bronco's first year.
Comes from New Mexico.
So Bronco ended up recruiting me at the very end. He got hired. And he recruited me at the end.
Did they still? Gary's still the head coach, so your scholarship's still good.
Yeah, scholarship's still good. Gary stayed. Yeah, and scholarship still. Yeah, everything was good. Signed and so I was part of Bronco's first class, and I think we've always kind of held a bond because of that.
And that's a loaded group, by the way. Like, the team didn't do well in terms of winning, but that defense was incredible.
I think we still ended up top 20 in the country, even though as a team. Our offense struggled because quarterback we had Matt Berry broke his finger. John Beck was a freshman, got concussions.
Yep.
Todd Mortensen was trying to play. It was just we had bad breaks with the quarterback play.
Pun intended.
Yeah. But it was defensively we had Aaron Francisco.
Yes.
Gennaro Guilford. Brady Papinga. Mania Brown.
Yeah.
I mean, John Denny, right?
They're like 5 NFL dudes.
Oh,
if not more.
Colby Buckwalt, NFL.
Yep.
Mike Tanner. I think he may have got on a team at practice squad or something like that. We had so much talent.
Loaded.
And that's also when we ran the 3-3-5.
Yep.
That's the defense that Bronco brought over from New Mexico. And so we were blitzing all over the place. It was a crazy defense. Guys flying all around. We're bringing down Aaron Francisco on safety blitz at the snap of the ball, and all of a sudden I'm running like the pipe or I'm running the seam, and it's just like mass chaos and confusion. For as a freshman, my head was spinning, but it was also fun. I mean, Bronco, I remember against San Diego State my freshman year, Bronco dialed up back-to-back blitzes for me to go in. I got like back-to-back sacks. I don't know if they were back-to-back, but I had 2 sacks in that game. And it was all because of this defense Bronco had dialed up. It was fun, but Bronco. So Bronco is okay. Bronco was called in to kind of clean things up a little bit, even as a D coordinator, and just tighten it up a little bit, right? So Bronco,
you're talking off the field?
Yeah, just in the program too. I think we had a lot of talent, but
on the field, or,
yeah,
because unfortunately off
was later. It got out of control.
It gets out of control. Yep.
On the field
and Gary has to fall on his sword.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is me. I'm prior. That happens on my mission.
Mm-hmm.
But things were already. We had a lot of JUCO guys, a lot of talented guys, but needed some direction. So Bronco, I think, was kind of hired to help with that. And so Bronco, my freshman year, wasn't the most pleasant human being to be around.
I've heard this.
He didn't want to talk to a soul. He didn't want to acknowledge you. He was extremely hard on you as a player. I mean, we run those pursuits and all that stuff, and he would kill us. And so when I go on my mission, I played that year. We didn't make a bowl game. It was a tough one. That's the year we lost to Utah 3-0.
Yep. I read that on my mission and I had a terrible day.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't just losing, it was the shutout, not being shutout streak ended that BYU owned, and I was like, what? Like, who cares?
Well, it was like there was like 6 inches of snow on the field. In that game, the snow was coming down so hard, we could not see Bronco on the sideline. Like, we would look to the sideline to get our hand signals, right? Because Broncos defense, all defenses, it's all based off hand signals. We couldn't see him.
Are you telling me like one half of the field you couldn't see?
Yeah, dead serious.
So if the ball's thrown to one side, you don't know where the ball is at all?
Ball wasn't being thrown this game. There was no throwing in this game.
Right.
But we couldn't see. We couldn't see Bronco. So we started we just call our own plays. You couldn't see anything. So the blizzard was real, and so it was just a punt fest. And
one field goal was made.
And then I have a bad memory, but I think we turned the ball over. They got like on the 25 and just somehow made a miracle field goal, moved away snow, and
it's Urban Meyer coaching Utah and the whole deal.
That was a nutty game. But anyways, I go on my mission.
Ecuador? Where'd you
Ecuador,
go?
Quito, Ecuador.
Nice.
Yeah. I leave at 227 pounds. I eventually come back at 197 pounds.
Oh wow.
So that was fun. But go on mission, and I hear the news of Croden getting fired. Well, I'm on a mission, and I come to find out that Bronco's the head coach. And I'll be honest, there was a minute there where I thought, I don't know if I want to play for Bronco. He wasn't the most pleasant person to be around. But it kind of went back to where, we had created kind of a special bond with him recruiting me, and he came to College Station multiple times. And I was his first kind of recruiting class. And so I was like, I once again, it's not about the coaches for me. It's about being at BYU and the environment and kind of following my siblings' footsteps and all that fun stuff. And so ultimately I was like, yeah, no, BYU is the right spot. So I came back and Bronco had evolved even then over just those couple of years and had become much more personable. And I think he'd helped clean up the mess, and I think he was more secure with himself and the program, where it was at and where it was headed. If you remember, that 2006 year was a lot of seniors. So I think he had some confidence with that, knowing that he's got, these guys with a lot of experience there as well.
And 05 was on the cusp.
Yeah.
Like it was a top 10 offense, 6-6, some close losses, recovered to make a bowl game in 05.
Oh, yeah. The story with that is
yes.
I get released from my mission December 22nd. We fly home to Texas. I get released by my stake president, and I drive home to see my family to do, because Texas, you can find a College Station, but our flight got canceled. So we had to rent a car, drive from Houston to College Station. Anyways, get released. I walk into my house. Everyone's giving me hugs. I'm like, get away from me. I go straight to the couch, take off my tie, and take off my coat, and watch the BYU
Cal
game
with Deshaun Jackson and Marshawn Lynch.
I watched the bowl game. It was like the best homecoming I could ever have, is to sit there and watch my guys on ESPN or whatever it was, ABC.
Close loss, but there was a lot of hope for that group of like, okay, got back to a bowl game, a lot of returning guys.
And they were young. You had John coming back. Yep. You had Curtis coming back.
Going to be seniors.
All these guys, right?
Johnny and the whole deal.
So I got off the mission. Broncos, much better, state of mind. And of course, the next 3 years is just absolute bliss with the whole crew.
06, 07, 08, and 09 after you graduated. There's never been more wins in a 4-year span, 43. Lavelle never put up 43 in a 4-year span.
Interesting. Yeah, we went 30. I went 32-7 my last 3 years at BYU under Bronco. 11-2, 11-2, back-to-back Mountain West Conference champs.
Yep.
And then 10-3 my senior year. That 10-3 senior year was quest for perfection. We were rolling.
Yeah.
Top 10 in the country.
And it just happened to be that Utah was going to have their probably greatest year ever, maybe second to what they did this last year.
Sugar Bowl year.
And then TCU was amazing too.
TCU, yeah.
So it was like there were 3 teams in the top 20 from BYU.
Yeah.
And
they're all legit too.
3 in the top 15, question mark?
Yeah.
Because when you play at Utah in 08, they're 7th, BYU's 14th, and that's like the best matchup ever.
Yeah.
2 top 15 teams.
Yeah.
It was wild.
It was wild.
Who cares about that 08 game, though?
About that.
Yes. Okay, so 06, obviously highlighted by Beck to Arlene.
Yeah.
But earlier in that season, the TCU game, you have this massive sack fumble situation.
Yeah.
That was the game, it felt like, where you guys were like, okay, we're actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, we're like top 25 good.
So we start off.
Did you feel that way?
Totally. That season was a bummer because we started off 1-2.
Yes.
We lost Arizona on a bogus push-off call from Matt Allen and a non-murdering call on Nate Mickle on the punt return. Right?
I drove down to this game to watch. Yes.
There were some blown calls. Yes. I mean, that
Johnny fumbles on the first drive or something. It doesn't start great. It was hard.
And then they hit us with the game-winner field goal that just was a dagger
it's from like a 50
from
plus.
I think Nick Folk, who's still playing in the NFL. I mean, the guy was
NFL guy,
All-American.
Yeah.
And so we dropped that game, which was super disappointing because once again we're coming off 05. We feel like we have a good team.
BYU doesn't lose to Arizona like again, except for you. Wait,
yes,
bowl, but like.
But in the meantime, played with Willie Tuitama, beat them.
Jake Oldroyd, the game in Vegas last year.
Right.
Like beating Arizona is the thing we do.
Yeah.
So that's why it was hard.
Yeah.
It
was unfortunate. Then the next week,
Boston College.
No, I think who did we play the next week?
Or you beat someone else.
We beat somebody else. I want to say was it Tulsa? Oh boy.
Tulsa was in there. Yes, I'll look it up as
06.
we're speaking.
Oh, Tulsa I think was 07. Maybe they were 06.
No, it's Tulsa the next week.
It is Tulsa next week. We beat them at home.
That's the Curtis Brown.
Yes.
Insane run.
Where guys are just trying to drag him down.
We put it in the top 100 plays when we did it. It was so fun.
Yes, it was Tulsa. That's right. Because we paid that in 07.
Yes.
The next year we go to Tulsa.
There was actually a lightning delay in this game. That Harvey Unga comes in as a freshman and plays, but it doesn't count for some reason for him.
Because it was lightning?
Well,
I'm saying because they just missed it or something or what?
I later informed the football team. I said, hey, he had yards you need to add there from this game.
And they're like, no,
So
we
when
don't.
he became
They're like, no, we don't.
When he became the all-time leading, oh right, no, it doesn't
No,
count.
it's not part
This
of
is
those,
pre 4-game freshman thing or redshirt thing. Okay, as Boston College,
Boston College, we're playing Matt Ryan, who
still in the NFL,
had
bro.
done a decent job for himself.
He's gonna be a Hall of Famer.
And we go into double overtime, and we drop that one, a close one. And so we're sitting now at 1-2, but we know we're so much better than this. You got, like I said, veteran John Beck, who by the way, against Boston College plays with a double high ankle sprain. I mean, the guy, I think he got those against, I think he got one of them against Arizona, maybe another one against Tulsa. Anyways, the guy was hobbled, absolute warrior, balling out. But, this was Cam Jensen's middle backer, me and Kill on the outside, and we had a stacked defense as well, and we just knew we were so much better. Fortunately, this is back in the day we were Mountain West, where we still had something to play for, And so we're like, okay, we kind of reconvene. We're like, listen, we can make a run. We know we're better than those 1-2 shows. And that's when we proceed to rattle off 10 straight wins from there on out.
Which is insane.
Don't lose in the Mountain West that year.
Yep.
Beat obviously Utah, the Beck to Harleen.
You didn't just win. I'm just gonna try and do quick math here. Okay, after this, you win by 38, 14, 30, 45, 17, 21, 45, 35. And then it's the Utah game. You are crushing fools.
It was crushing. I think the Utah game that year, John Beck didn't even play in. We played Ja Beck, which is Jason Beck.
Utah State.
Yeah, I guess Utah State.
Yes.
Did I say Utah? Yeah, Utah State.
38-0, yes.
Utah State.
Ja Beck.
Yeah.
Now it's Syracuse.
Not
yes.
Joe Beck, Ja Beck, we called him.
It was on the back,
of their jerseys.
Spencer and I still call him Ja Beck and Joe Beck.
It's good old Joe.
So funny.
So you're right. We honestly, by the end of that season, when we go on to play Oregon in the Vegas Bowl, we actually felt pretty slighted because
yes,
we were at that point when we go to the Vegas Bowl, we're ranked top 15 in the country, maybe 17, top 20. I know for sure.
You're sick. You're 19th at the moment.
At the time, going into the game,
going into the game, then you finished 16th.
Finished 16th.
But Oregon was ranked 21st, but they had classic tale like, oh, we're not in the Rose Bowl.
Well, that's
so
when Mike Bellotti said that BYU would belong in the bottom tier of the Pac-12.
As Mountain West champs.
As we're sitting there, Mountain West champs and ranked 19th in
You're
the country.
10-2. It's like, come on, man.
And the irony of that game is we're facing Oregon team who their offensive coordinator is
Gary Cronin.
Gary Cronin, my old head coach.
Was that weird?
We saw him at all the events and caught up with him. I actually saw him at the airport, coincidentally enough, the next morning after the game, flying out, and we caught up on the escalator. No, it wasn't weird. I've always loved Gary. Gary was a great coach. He was a player's coach, but unfortunately, he just didn't have a grasp on everything that ended up happening. But I think if you talk to his players, everyone loved Gary, and he was a brilliant mind. No doubt about that.
Oh yeah, that 0-1 team is one of the greatest offenses.
What he put out there on the field, I mean, he knew what he was doing.
First game, 70 points.
Yeah.
That was so fun.
Yeah.
I went to that game in the stands. I was like, this is awesome.
It's amazing. So, anyways, that was a crazy bowl game.
Hold on. 06 Utah. Let's talk about it for a second.
Oh, yeah. Jeez.
Okay. Utah scores with 75 seconds left. And I remember telling Spencer on the sideline, we were both students. I was covering it for BYUtv. It was there for, I think, the news program, the comms. I said, they gave BYU too much time.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
At that point, yeah, the touchdown scored. Everyone's going crazy. I freaking love going to BYU at Utah games, by the way. I went to every single BYU Utah game.
Have to.
From 1995 to 2012. When I stopped going, it was because I was producing pre- and post-game show, and I couldn't go. It's like the event of the year for me. It's so fun to hear that place shut up.
Oh.
It just so there's 2 4th downs on that drive.
Yeah.
You're watching this all on the sidelines.
You know what's crazy?
What's it like for you?
Well, so having
and that
played
whole
with
game.
having played with John that whole year and having blown out teams and seeing how the same page he was with Coach and I and calling and running that whole offense, he knew every check possible. I mean, John, there's a reason why he was drafted, in the second round. I mean, the guy was one of the best quarterbacks, I think.
Still coaching.
And still coaching
at a super high level.
He knows the game.
Jets brought him in this year because he's too smart.
100%.
Yeah.
And so we were on the exact same page. There was like zero panic on that sideline. Like when they scored, it was like, okay. You looked at the clock, like you said, and we're like, that's actually plenty of time. In fact, defense, we might have to go back out there.
Prepare yourself.
And then, obviously Utah buttoned it up. And, yeah, like you said, a couple 4th down conversions. Bryson Weeka got one of those. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, Johnny, the other one. That's right.
Yep.
Big catch.
Not his biggest catch.
No, not his biggest catch.
That would come, of course, at the end.
But yeah, he might have had a bigger catch earlier in the game over Eric Weddle in the end zone, one-handed. He had some big catches.
He had 3 touchdowns in that
game. But the biggest catch comes a little bit later. As the drive continues, you get to the very last play. I believe BYU called the timeout. Did we call the timeout, or did Utah call a timeout? There was a timeout prior to that last play.
There might have been 2. I don't know.
So
was it the same play called from the play before? I've heard that it was back-to-back, that they came to the sideline. They're like, run the same play. We just ran.
I would love to hear the offensive guys stand. John might be able to.
We need to do a pod like this, but we get 06 guys in the room, and we just break down.
Talk through it.
Yes.
Because that is funny because with these type of things, you start hearing your buddies talk about stuff, and it reminds you of certain memories, right? Anyway, so that last play, I remember this. Brian Kill, Kelly Papina, and I think Markel Staffieri, all of us have our arms interlocked on the far side of the sideline, so away from the offense. We're basically on the opposite 40 probably. And we're all interlocked, and we're just like praying, right? Just like, please, for the love of man, we gotta get this one. Because this play, the Mountain West Conference Championship hinges on this play.
Yes.
If we win it, we win the championship. If Utah wins it, they win the championship that year. And the winner goes to the Vegas Bowl, right?
Because they had one loss, I suppose.
I think they were
undefeated.
Exactly. And they would have won a head-to-head, obviously.
7-0 or whatever.
Yeah. And so this is a massive play. And so we're just like, come on. And, of course.
And there's a 4-game losing streak, by the way, to Utah. We think this is an abomination at the time.
Yes.
Then it would become worse,
little
right?
People know.
Yeah.
And so we're just nervous. Nellie's over there, linked up in arms. And all of a sudden the play happens. We know it. As John moves to his right, he goes and launches the ball. Because we're on the far end of the field, we don't see Johnny down there. We're on the field, but we don't see him down there.
Literally no one does.
Yeah. Utah didn't either.
Except John. John and Johnny were the only ones that knew.
Utah didn't see him over there either. And all of a sudden, so we actually run out onto the field. Now I'm like 5 or 6 yards onto the field to see where this ball's going.
Oh, this should have been flagged.
Yeah, probably. Utah fans are crying they should have been replayed. And all of a sudden, we see Johnny come up and dive to his knees and catch it. And we go nuts to the point where I had actually my helmet on the ground or something. I could pick up my helmet, and I throw my helmet maybe 25 yards up in the air.
Oh, my God.
I chunked this thing so hard.
Hopefully it didn't land on anybody.
It hits the 50 and rolls over to the Ute sideline. And I was like, I'll get that later. So I run dog pile, jumping on with everybody. Ultimately, go back and get my helmet. It was still there somehow. I'm surprised. If I was one of you guys, I'd probably have thrown it away. But absolute pandemonium. And then you add on the fact that, Rice Eccles was silent, except for that southwest end zone.
Yes.
Where all the BYU fans were, southwest corner.
Yes.
And it's just people going. And then you see these Navy hoodies and like Navy shirts sporadically throughout the crowd cheering as well.
Yep.
And I remember that celebration in that locker room was unbelievable. Just the best feeling ever. Absolutely amazing. And then we go on, like I said, go on to the Vegas Bowl and finish off just a phenomenal season, 11-2.
You win by 30 over a Power 5 team. Like that was something. It was the biggest bowl margin of victory ever. It's not the biggest margin of victory ever versus a Power 5 team, but like that was quite the showing to end the season.
It was a statement. It was a statement.
It was amazing.
And once again, we felt a little slighted because we're in the Mountain West and we're relegated to kind of the Vegas Bowl against the 5th place Pac-12. But
give us a shot at a good team.
But we felt slighted that we even had to be there, and then we felt slighted because we show up and we had to stay at the Golden Nugget, while the Pac-12 stayed at the Venetian. And we're like, this is not cool. Like we're ranked higher than these guys. We're getting the shaft here. Anyways, little stuff like that. We always joke about as players. The fact
at least the residents in.
The fact that we had to play on the Mountain Network back in the day too. It's my grandparents back in Texas had to watch all my games on a sling box. Like I tell these kids now, you're on ESPN and ABC. I don't want to hear crap from you.
Slingbox is not a Doctor Strange reference. It's not a sling ring, just to be clear. You know what I'm saying?
No. This is something that you have to put in somebody's home address here in Utah that gets the mountain, and then you can stream it. And you not even stream. It's like you have to dial up modem back in Texas to watch it, and it's grainy, and you can't even tell what numbers you are. Anyways,
would you have been an NFL draft pick if you played on ESPN like today?
Oh, boy, there's the question. If you ask Brian Kill and I say Brian because we feel the same way about getting more exposure, listen, I mean, it is what it is. Frankly, I'd probably get drafted. I don't know if I'm a high draft pick per se.
But drafted.
Yeah, I think I'd probably get drafted somewhere in there. Or at least get invited to the combine. I didn't even get invited to the combine.
You didn't even get invited.
Yeah.
That's wild to me.
So, but it's all water on the bridge. But, I think, listen, the exposure that these kids are getting now is phenomenal. I'm so happy for them. I mean, in fact, they're on ESPN. Even though you're playing some late games, you're on ESPN. Like, college scouts can watch you. College scouts could not watch. Back east, they couldn't watch the Mountain. It wasn't available to them. It's only like here in the Mountain West. And so you get that many more eyeballs on you, So, but yeah, it was a wild time. So 07, we finished 06 on a high note. We go into 07.
All new dudes on offense.
Max Hall, now quarterback. Max had been there though. Max had been leading the prep team.
How was he on the prep team?
Oh, he's Max Hall, the guy.
He was the same guy?
Oh yeah, same guy.
Did you know he'd be awesome?
Yeah, we had complete confidence in Max. And we knew
because Jason was a senior too. It was weird to have a senior job back.
Yep.
As a backup.
Yeah.
A senior.
Yeah. Yeah. We knew Max. We knew Max was the real deal.
Did you know Harvey'd be the real deal?
Yeah. Yeah. We faced all those guys on the scout team.
And Dennis.
Yeah. I mean, Dennis.
Or did Dennis take a sec?
No, Dennis. We knew that he had the ability too. I mean, we had Andrew George too. I mean, we had horses.
You go from Harleen and Coates.
Yeah.
To Andrew George and Dennis Pitta. Like, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. And we reloaded. Keep in mind, we still had Fui Vakapuna. Mm-hmm. We had Harvey. We had Manasseh. I mean, we were loaded. And we brought all those guys back for 07 and 08. So it was so we come off that year 11-2. We fought the next year with another 11-2 season. And win the Mountain West again.
And another dramatic win.
Another 4th and 19. Over a 4th and 19 scenario over Utah. And
then another this time dramatic bowl win.
Dramatic bowl win over the UCLA. Blocked the field goal.
Were you on the field goal block?
I was on the field goal block team. You go back and watch it. Jan Jorgensen and I are lined up in the exact same gap. When the ball's hiked, you can only imagine who's going to probably win that battle or get into that gap. So Jan kind of nudges me out a little bit, and so I jump. You're trying to time it all. So we all jump, and we hear the thud. And I immediately turn around.
You heard it immediately.
Oh, yeah. You can hear it. It's loud. It's loud out there. And you turn around. I turn around. I see this ball just fluttering and fall just short of the field goal post. And there's actually, one of the ESPN clips of me jumping up and just, fist pumping in the air. Just so pumped, right? Because that was a game. That was – UCLA hadn't – so they beat us earlier that year.
It was a weird rematch.
At the Rose Bowl.
Yes.
Against Ben Olsen, who hosted me on my recruiting trip.
Oh, Ben did?
Ben was my host on my recruiting trip.
For those who don't know, Ben was perhaps the most highly sought after and rated quarterback ever signed by BYU. Almost comes in the game at Utah State in 02. BYU has this crazy comeback, goes on a mission, transfers to UCLA, back home where he was from.
That's right. Yeah, he's from LA.
He hosted you.
Yeah. He hosted my recruiting trip when he was here as a freshman.
Was it cool?
Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah, and we stayed in touch.
Yeah, and, 6'4" lefty, RM,
the
whole deal.
Super cool guy. Yeah. We dabbed each other up before both, the game and the Rose Bowl. He was hurt by the time it came around. I think he was hurt. Yeah, I don't think he played.
Yeah,
in the
I don't
bowl
think
game.
he played in that either. Yeah.
But even to this day, he's back here in Utah now.
Oh, is he? That's cool.
And so we end up getting together and hanging out. And when I say hanging out, we see each other. We have seen him at a couple events here and there with our kids and
that's
stuff
awesome.
like that. So, anyways, played Ben. We lose in the Rose Bowl that year. I know we're backtracking, going back and forth this whole time.
I went down to that game.
Okay,
it was cool at the Rose Bowl, David. I remember in pregame this.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, here comes UCLA. No, it was BYU.
No.
The Cougar Nation showed up, and it was incredible. It was a whole,
it's a
end zone.
Entire horseshoe. It might have been one of the most impressive outings by BYU fans.
It was
maybe like the Arizona game this year in Vegas, honestly.
Which was the greatest showing I've ever seen.
Probably this year's Arizona game in Vegas, because we were there.
Yes.
I think that probably is the best road showing by BYU fans maybe ever.
It was so good.
But I would probably put that UCLA game at the Rose Bowl as a close second.
Yeah.
Because that whole horseshoe was all BYU, and BYU fans were so much louder than UCLA fans that game. It was a home game for us. in the Rose Bowl.
Which is pretty cool. Like, let's be honest. No offense to anybody. That venue actually sucks. Like, it's historic, but it's not nice.
No.
Like, maybe they've done some upgrades since, 15 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But, like, in that moment, I was like, this is actually kind of dumpy.
Yeah.
It's just historic because it's the Rose Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone's
it was
be
cool to
offended
play
by
in there.
that.
I'll say this. The field was really
grass
nice.
apparently is
the grass
amazing,
was,
right?
The grass was unreal. The field, everything was great. I mean, listen, we can complain about stuff. Vic Soto, you go back, his knee was down, they called it, he wasn't down, they fumbled, and there were things in that game we should have beat them too.
Oh, it's Brandon Bradley, OG?
Yeah.
This is 07? I forgot this part.
Yes.
So he's a tight end, right?
Vic Soto.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they said he fumbled.
And
a review today would have been...
Well, they tried to review, but I think it was on Versus, and they couldn't see it. I'm telling you, guys.
They're like, is that his knee or his head? Yeah.
His knee, but there's pictures, stills that came out later that show his knee was completely down. The ball wasn't out.
And they called a fumble.
And anyways, it was a low scoring game where we should have pulled it out. What was the final?
27-17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they scored really late because I think we turned it over, someone trying to force the ball, but it was much closer, and we should have pulled that one out. But that same season, we start
1-2 again.
1-2 again, similar to the prior year.
You beat Arizona, little vengeance there.
At home.
At UCLA, 10-point loss. At Tulsa is one of the great shootouts in BYU history. I actually watched this in a movie theater at University Mall, and they didn't turn on the AC. It was like 85 degrees in there.
Just sweat it out.
And it was like Cougar board incarnate after. Everyone's so mad. 55-47. Austin Collie has one of the greatest games in Cougar history, like all-purpose yards, million, everything, right?
This is the game where Tulsa had Charles. First of all, Tulsa had a bye week before our game, that early in the season. Brian Kill and I played with their starting linebacker, who was their stud guy, Chris Chamberlain. He actually played, I think, some offense too. We played with him with the Rams. And we would hash out this game all the time. And he admitted that they had a bye week before this game, and they threw in, because he was on defense, but he knew his offense, threw in literally like 20 trick plays. Just threw the kitchen sink at trying to reinvent this offense during the bye week. And they came out there, and honestly, they threw every single trick play they tried worked. It was like they had our heads spinning. Charles Clay was their tight end who went for probably 200 yards. I don't know. He had a massive day.
Hundreds.
Oh, what was it?
Oh, let's see, Charles Clay. I don't have it.
Oh, who's there? I thought it was Charles Clay. Who's had like a big receiving?
They had somebody with 171.
Who's that?
Brennan Marion.
No, I thought Clay. So maybe that's the year before or something. But they had a guy who wouldn't play in the NFL. Charles Clay played in the NFL for years. And
Paul Smith threw for 454 and 5. This was like BYU.
It was
what BYU did to teams traditionally.
It was they ran wheel routes on us all day long, and with where our defense coverages were and things, it was a mess. But anyways, that was a tough one.
You're 1-2 again.
We shouldn't have lost that one. And then we proceed to go into Mountain West Conference play, and we run the table again.
10 in a row again, man.
10 in a row. Go to the Vegas Bowl that year. We just talked about UCLA, win that one, and finish 11-2, and finish we finished ranked. I think we were top 15 that year. We finished 16.
You're 19 again going into the bowl game.
It's the exact same ranking.
Finished 14.
14, so we got bumped up. Yeah.
14th.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, 2 years ago this team was 6-6.
Yeah.
3 years ago this team had a losing record while you were on your mission.
Yeah.
Talk about the Utah game.
Utah game.
That's 4th and 19.
4th and 19. Prior to that, it had been a slugfest, that game. Defensively.
4th and 18, excuse me.
Yeah.
4th and 19. Freaking Johnny Lemon.
That's right. 4th and 18. It's all the same. After you get over 15 yards, it's like this is just a prayer that you're throwing up there anyway. So another yard is not making a big difference.
Yes.
But slugfest that game. They come down. They score on us late. And get in the end zone. But you know what? Max, even though he's a sophomore, the guy was fiery as can be, competitor as can be.
And he had just sprained his shoulder or something the week before at Wyoming.
Yep.
I think no one knew till later.
Yeah, the guy's just a warrior.
Amazing.
Goes out there on the 4th and 18, delivers the ball to Collie, and then Harvey, the old picture where he just punches off Utah's defender in the end zone. I mean, just as good as it gets. And of course, the Weller Stadium is going nuts. And then we actually had to go back out there, and we stopped, and they had, I think, about 20-some seconds left, or maybe 30.
They had a Hail Mary.
Yeah, they had a chance.
That dropped at like the 5 that was batted down.
Yeah.
They had a shot. Yeah.
But that game, that 4th and 18, I remember just sidelines thinking, there's no way, and then all of a sudden, because when you're on the sideline, you can't really see the game very well. So we kind of watching the video boards, and then we heard, the crowd start to get on the play itself. We heard the crowd start to be like, and all of a sudden we look up and we see Collie wide open. McCain bit on the double move.
How do you bite on the double move?
And got it. And I mean, the rest is history. But I mean, that game, back to back, and once again, that game, I believe that one also. If Utah wins that one, they win the Mountain West, and if we win it, we win the Mountain West. I think that's how it was. That's how it was for almost those last 3 years. I can maybe be wrong. TCU surely was in the mix somewhere along there.
Yeah.
But I think it always came down to the last game of the year against Utah.
For a conference championship.
Was for a conference championship. Because I think even my senior year, even though TCU had beat us, I think if we had beat Utah 08 up there, I think we would have won it again.
No. You're right.
It may have been a tie or something because TCU had beat
because
BYU.
You have one loss. It's TCU.
And TCU only had one, too, because they lost to Utah. So I don't know how that would have worked out. There would have been a 3-way tie, essentially.
Which would have been wild.
And I don't know how that would have got broken at the time. But
you guys are ranked 14th. If you beat Utah in that game in 08, you're top 10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That would have been wild.
That was it. So that was my senior year. So I go to my senior year. I'm a team captain. It's myself, Matt Bauman. It's Austin and Max. And that was a crazy year because, as we said, my senior year, we start off and we go. I think we win 6 straight. This is why I have Jarom here. Jarom's got, for everyone's listening,
I've got Cougar stats
Jarom's
up.
got his computer up, and he's
You're 6-0.
6-0.
Yep. And you're ranked, I want to say 8th,
and
9th at this point in the AP.
And we were coming off Utah State, who we thumped Utah State.
And in the fourth quarter, their crowd had chanted.
They started chanting overrated to us, which was still to this day hilarious.
You won by 20.
20. Yeah. At Utah State? Yeah, yeah. And that's with like a couple late touchdowns by him, too.
Yeah.
Why? Because in that game, I get cheap shotted from behind and get rolled up on. I get a high ankle sprain. So we're playing TCU the very next week on a short week.
It was a Thursday night game.
Thursday night game on Versus in my hometown, my senior year. We're undefeated. When I say hometown, home state.
Yes. Undefeated.
Everything's on the line. But I'm rolling into that game with an ankle that I've been in a boot all week. I haven't practiced 1 second. I can't even walk on this thing. And I wanted to play so bad. I don't know if I should really share a story, but we'll share it anyways. So before the game, I'm like, I got to get something to get this pain taken away. So they shoot my ankle full of Toradol, which is an anti-inflammatory pain numbing medicine. They shoot it up. I go out to warm-ups. They spat my shoe up, everything. I go out to warm-ups. I can't.
That means they tape it.
Yeah, they tape it all up. So they shoot it. They tape up the ankle, put my shoe on. They tape my shoe on to my leg and my socks and everything. I go out to warm-ups. I still can't run on this thing.
Oh, shoot.
And halfway through warm-ups, I tell the docs, we got to go back in. So we go back in, rip everything off, which is a 10-minute ordeal in and of itself to cut off all this tape. They proceed to shoot up again to the point where you can't even see my ankle anymore. But it gave me enough to go out and play that game. But frankly, it didn't matter much because TCU had some horses. Jeremy Curley, who played in the NFL for years. Jerry Hughes played defense. Andy Dalton was quarterback at the time. I mean, they were stacked, and they ran us ragged. But that was a bummer because that was my coming home game. 06 when we played there and beat them. That's when I had like my big sack. You started to mention earlier. That's what everyone knows me for my 06 sack against Ballard, the quarterback, where hit him, jarred the ball loose. We get the ball. It was on like the 5-yard line. They're about to score. And we go down and score and kind of changes the tide. And so 08, my senior year, I was, captain, looking forward to it. And unfortunately, we kind of laid an egg in that game. And it was just hard to keep up with those guys. They were a great team. All credit to them.
They were amazing.
And so we finished out the rest of that year. 08, once again, is at Utah. This is their Sugar Bowl year. They were obviously a really good team.
They're so good. Yeah.
You
guys
hung
were
with
good
them.
too.
We actually hung with them going into the fourth quarter.
Yes.
I don't know if your Cougar stats shows it or not, but we were within striking distance. Like, we were only down by, I want to say, like a touchdown maybe?
It was 27-24.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought it was 3 or 4 points.
Yep.
So we're in it, and then the fourth quarter, I think Max was trying to force the ball through a couple pick sixes, and all of a sudden the game got away from us real quick.
It's a tough game for Max. He
Yeah.
has 6 turnovers.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
tough game. 5 picks, yeah.
Yeah, it was a tough. I mean, and once again, Utah had Paul Cougar, who played in the NFL for years. I mean, they had a stacked defense as well.
Yeah, they beat Alabama in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, your sack force fumble on Jeff Ballard in 06. Do you want to guess where we put it in the top 100 plays? We put it in there 2 years ago when we redid that.
43.
56.
I only said 43 because that was my football number.
Yes.
I have no idea. 56.
56.
Hey, I'm in the top 60. I'll take that all day long.
You're a top 60 guy.
that's all I'm asking for. Top 60. Yeah, so that senior year was it was tough because we'd come off those 2 11-2 seasons, Mountain West Conference champs. We thought that my senior year 08 was with now Max is a junior, Des is a junior. You know, all of us have gotten older. We've been playing with each other now for a couple of years. We really thought that was going to be a special year. That was a quest for perfection year. Which was always, I mean, as a team captain, that's actually a lot of weight put on our shoulders too, right? Like the whole team.
Did you like that or not?
No, because we had to
Too
answer.
much, right?
It was too much. We had to
Was
answer.
that a Bronco thing?
Yeah,
Based on the university mission.
that's right.
You took a phrase from
Yeah,
it.
from BYU's mission statement.
And listen, I love Bronco, but there's 2 distinct moments where messaging gets mixed up. It's that and it's tradition, spirit,
that's
and
right.
the jerseys, right?
Yeah.
Good intention, great idea, tough execution, right?
Yeah,
Quest for perfection got just blown up,
Yeah.
right? Because all of a sudden now you have to go undefeated. Like you have to go
Have to.
undefeated.
Yeah.
That's really hard. The only team that really did that, was Utah. Like
yeah.
they had the quest.
Yeah.
Like,
It was. I remember having to answer to it as a captain, right? You're getting interviewed more, and
Yes.
I'm the captain of the defense, so it's like, yeah, there was a.
You can't say what you actually think.
Yeah, it was tough. It was a tough spot. And once again, I don't think Bronco had the intention for it to be what it ended up being,
Right.
but
100%.
it wasn't thought through, obviously, as much as it should have been. Probably
That happens.
it happens.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we go in the bowl game. So that season, once again, we're ranked in the top 10, and then we go in. We lose to TCU. We win a couple more games. Lose to Utah. We're 10-2. We go to the Vegas Bowl now for the 4th straight year.
Yes.
My 3rd time to go to the Vegas Bowl.
Are you sick of it now?
Very sick of it at this point. We knew what all the activities were going to be because they do the exact same activities every year. We knew all the food. Like it was the exact same thing.
You have the gold nugget again?
That year they moved us to the Planet Hollywood.
Okay, I actually remember.
So we're at least on the
Planet Hollywood
Strip.
now. Yeah.
We're on the Strip now.
It's better.
Not the Venetian.
Still not great.
Still not the Venetian.
Yes.
And we're facing Arizona team that had not been to a bowl game in I think
Willie Tuitama and a little-known tight end named Rob Gronkowski.
Yeah, that guy.
You're 17th.
17th going in that
They're
game.
unranked.
Yeah, they were 6-6. I think they just barely qualified for a bowl.
It was a big deal for them.
Yeah,
to be there.
and was not a big deal for us, unfortunately. And I know I keep mentioning team captain, but as a captain, that was kind of my job, was to get these guys ready, and it was tough to get everyone up motivated, just because when you're ranked 9th in the country and you think you are on this quest for perfection, to all of a sudden get that stolen from you, against TCU and then again against Utah, it took a lot of air out of us.
Utah's in the Sugar Bowl, and I didn't know where TCU went. I just looked it up. They were 11th. They played 9th-ranked Boise State in the Poinsettia. They just got this better matchup.
Yeah, that's right.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
then, would it have been different if you had played? Because you're 17th. You're playing 9th-ranked Boise State
Yeah, I think
in
if
San
you would,
Diego?
honestly, I think if you would put us anywhere other than Vegas that year,
Oh, interesting.
I think because we had just gone to Vegas so many years in a row, and once again we had BCS aspirations, right?
Now you're Oregon 06.
Yeah.
You're bummed to be in that game.
Although Oregon wasn't, they weren't. I mean, well, you said they were
Well, I
ranked.
mean, you had aspirations.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
But you guys are a ranked team.
yeah, we're ranked, and we've been ranked for 3 years in a row now.
Yes. You expect to be and finish
We
ranked.
expect to at least have some respect to go somewhere a little better. But to our point,
You
we
wanted a little more because you'd
Yeah.
been there.
It wasn't necessarily that we felt like at 10-2 at the time that we deserved more. It was more the fact that we were still reeling from the fact that we'd had 2 losses that season. That we
Yes.
felt like we should have been on that quest for perfection. We should have gone
Yes.
undefeated.
And you're 3rd place in the league. At
Yeah.
10-2.
Yeah,
You're the league was incredible. You had 2 top 11 teams.
yeah. It
That's
was
crazy.
It was the strength of the Mountain West was insane back then.
And we look back starting in 2023. all three of those eventually become Power 5.
That's right.
When
And-
BYU joins
and
the Big 12.
Major contributors, I know TCU's kind of not had super strong the last few years, but
Right. But it got him into a league, which was the hope. Okay, so you know what? I'm calling an audible here.
okay.
This has been so good. We're going to do a part 2 with you another day. I haven't even gotten to when you graduate.
Oh, man.
NFL, Big 12 thoughts from you with BYU. Taysom Hill, obviously.
Oh,
Your
yeah.
sister marries Taysom. Emily's great. Can we do a part 2 another day?
100%.
At some point, we'll do it.
To wrap it up, I mean, to this day, I'm on a Band of Brothers thread with a whole bunch of former teammates. And that's what makes BYU so special is the fact that I spent all these years with these guys. And when we see each other at these alumni events, it's just a blast catching up. I mean, we went just a few weeks ago. Well, January, this same text thread went down to Arizona, Phoenix, and we played golf. And Max came and met us and played with us. And just a riot, right? I mean, the fun times of these guys where you're literally blood, sweat, and tears. Literally out there during hot days of summer, pushing sleds and lifting weights and then getting injured on the field. You're rehabbing together, trying to get your body back healthy. And anyways, all those memories. And it's fun that to this day, we're all in our respective lives. I think pretty much all of us are married with kids. And in our own respective professions, and it's just awesome to kind of catch up. And these are memories. And in fact, on this thread, just a couple of days ago, we were sharing videos of when we were doing skits during fall camp of impersonating coaches, and there were just some amazing skits, and we were just dying laughing, and it's a fun time. I absolutely love BYU. I'm a massive advocate for BYU. In fact, I was on the phone to a recruit the other day that just wanted to know about BYU, and I was telling him about why I love this place over A&M or other schools that I had offers from. And I think it's an amazing place to play football. It's only going to be better with the Big 12, which we can get into next time.
Explore in part 2 more of that.
But not only that, but the culture and the people you're around, and the experiences you get to experience here, unlike any other.
That's awesome. There's so many other questions I have. We just have to push it. You are now the second person to get a part 2.
Man.
Mark Pope and Leanne Pope got a part 2. They're going to get a part 3 because I haven't even gotten to when he takes over the BYU job yet. Wild stuff.
That is wild. If I'm in Mark Pope's same arena, I appreciate that.
That's pretty good.
That's I'll take that.
You have better hair. Just saying.
Oh,
David, you're one of my buddies. I really love being able to work with you. It's fun to hang out, man.
Likewise. This was fun. Thanks for having me.
That'll do it for us. Listen to previous episodes on the BYU Radio app or where podcasts are found. For David Nixon and producer Tanner Graff, I'm Jarom Jordan. You've just listened to Deep Blue on BYU Radio.